National Sign Day is almost here in Nebraska. It's aggressively trying to flip multiple big-time names in this class at the very last second. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a loaded Nebraska 2026 recruiting class update. A couple guys I have my eyes out for, 4-star DBs, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. Are we going to get anybody to flip by Wednesday? My overall evaluation of this class, a couple huge updates around the class of 27, and everything else you need to know. So really quick, this is a loaded recruiting update. I'm fired up. If you are too, hit that like button. And also, we're getting so close to 15,000 subscribers, and for good reason. This is the only channel on Nebraska YouTube that posts daily updates talking recruiting, just like this, talking transfer portal, talking coaching carousel, and it's about to heat up. So if you want daily content, it's no burn. Take seconds, join the family, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. National Sign Day is this week on Wednesday, and Nebraska is aggressively trying to flip multiple big-time names in the cycle at the very last second. Some DBs, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they're trying to get up to 10, 11, maybe 12 commits by then. So let's talk about it. Let's get things going with the DB position, because right now there's a lot of rumors around. Not one, not two, but three total prospects. You got to get things going with one of the best safeties in America. A familiar name to Nebraska fans, Devin Jacks. We knew that the Huskers were in the mix in the summer. He took an official visit to Nebraska. He was very impressed with the coaching staff, with the facilities. He knew that if you were to commit to Nebraska, he would be in the mix to start right away. We also know that we had a lot of money on the table. However, he ended up committing to Oregon. They outbid us at the very last second. And he tweeted out a couple months ago that his recruitment was completely shut down. He wasn't visiting any other program. Florida was trying to flip him. Miami was trying to flip him. Nebraska has been trying to flip him for a very long time. But he said, you know what? This is all done. I'm going to sign with Oregon. I'm not going to flip anywhere. However, that all changed. He broke his promise when at the very last second, nobody was expecting him to visit Nebraska for the Iowa game alongside his good friend and teammate, current Nebraska commit 5-star Danny Odom. And he had a very good visit despite Nebraska losing. There's a lot of rumors right now that Nebraska is trying to flip him at the very last second to add him to this recruiting class. So what we know is that Nebraska, right off the bat, is offering a lot of money. A lot of money. A lot of playing time as well. They're trying to sell them on the fact that, hey, if you were to come here, you could potentially start day one. You're that good of a prospect. The secondary we know is wide open next year. We're going to lose a lot of players to the portal. We're going to, of course, lose a lot of players to graduation. So with Danny Odom potentially coming here and starting right away, we're telling Devin right now, hey, we have a great secondary coach, Ass Williams. You're going to be developed at a high level, and you could potentially start on day one. That's not happening over there at Oregon. That's not going to happen in Miami. That's not going to happen at Florida. So would watch out for Devin Jackson. Again, the money's in our favor, right? The teammate connection's in our favor as well. However, if you guys want my honest prediction, I do believe Devin Jackson will stick with Oregon and will sign with the Ducks on Wednesday. Just the way it's looking. Although he did visit for the Iowa game, losing in that fashion, although he still had a good visit, losing in that fashion does not do us any favors. It doesn't. And right now, one of the big reasons he committed to Oregon, despite the money, was that's a winning program. That is a program every single year is competing for national championships. Not Big Ten championships, not great bowl games. They're competing for national titles. We also know that they have Dane Lanning, who's a defensive-minded head coach, who, if you were to go to Oregon, he's going to be developed at a very high level and is going to go to the NFL. And it's very, very hard for him to break away from that at the very last second to go to Nebraska when no bridge has been burnt there. It's not like Oregon's been firing coaches. That's not the case. So despite all the rumors right now, it's just happening a little bit too late here. I do believe that Devin Jackson will sign with Oregon. Again, if he visited like a couple months ago and Nebraska had time to work on this, I think it would be more of a possibility. But again, it's last second. I think, honestly, the only reason why he visited is because of Danny. Danny kind of convinced him to come for the Iowa game. So unfortunately, Devin Jackson will sign with Oregon. Then a couple other guys we're looking out for in the DB core. We know that Darian Jones coming out of Omaha, Nebraska. I told you guys the Iowa game would be very significant for him with all the Kirk Ferentz rumors right now. If this is going to be his last year, if Nebraska could knock him off, they could beat Kirk Ferentz at home and they could win big. It might mean that he would flip by sign day. There are a lot of rumors that he was still considering Nebraska up until a couple days ago. Of course, we know that right now he's the number 10 corner in America coming out of Omaha, Nebraska. We've talked about this ad nauseum in the past. The Huskers have a very poor connection inside Omaha. They can get guys, Western Nebraska, they can get guys in Lincoln. Those guys are easy. But it's these kids who are from Omaha, who are going to Omaha North, Omaha Central, again, Millard South. I went to that high school. I know they do not have very good connection there. So despite all of that, we know that Darian Jones' brother played for Nebraska. Again, he was considering us. However, as you'd imagine, with Iowa blowing us out, he put this out on his Instagram story right after they won. Iowa beat us by 24 points. He said, I think I chose the right school, shutting down his recruitment, and he will sign with Iowa on Wednesday. And then last update in the secondary, Asad Chapman was expected to visit Nebraska for the Iowa game. He is one of the best JUCO corners in America. We know Nebraska, they're aggressively trying to go after multiple JUCOs because they're kind of a cheat code right now. You can bring him in at 20, 21 years old with 4 years of eligibility remaining, a lot of experience. Again, we know he's very physical. Again, 6'3", he's huge, great length, great arms. However, unfortunately, Asad Chapman did not visit Nebraska for the Iowa game. He did not show up. He didn't go to Mississippi State either, but it looks like Nebraska's completely out of it right now. There's a couple other big-time schools in there. Oregon's been going after him. North Carolina's been going after him. And I do believe Asad Chapman will commit somewhere else, but it will not be Nebraska. The Huskers will not land his talents. So with that being said, I do not believe Nebraska will land a single member of the secondary to pair alongside Danny Odom. Again, I'll save my full evaluation and analysis for Wednesday, but that is a huge mistake. Huge mistake because we punted on last year's class in the secondary. We brought in a bunch of safeties, a bunch of project players, and we also know that we're going to lose a bunch of players to the portal in that position specifically. It is what it is. But Asad Chapman will not come here along with Darian Jones and more likely than not, Devin Jackson. Let's go to a couple other positions. Now we have Mekhi Matulu, who we thought was going to visit Nebraska on Sunday, was down to the Huskers, Illinois, there was Wisconsin in there, BYU in there, Utah in there, a bunch of big-time schools. Unfortunately, he did not end up visiting Nebraska. He ended up going over to Utah, and the Huskers are completely out of it for one of the best. I'd say he's the number one JUCO offensive lineman in America. The Huskers are out of it. Again, he will likely commit. I'd say BYU or Utah, but again, he's 6'4", 340, huge guy. He can play tackle, guard, and center, but Nebraska out of it. The Huskers will not land an offensive lineman in this class after losing Leon Noy. We have 3 that will sign. That, of course, being Hayden Ainsworth, Klama Puma, and Rex Waterman. Then going on to Ryan Mira, I've got a lot of questions about him on the offensive line. Maybe the Huskers are going to get back involved here. He came on an official visit. At one point, it looked like Nebraska was the favorite to land him. We know that, of course, Lane Kiffin left for LSU, but I do expect Ryan Mira to still stay with Ole Miss. He will sign with them, and he will not flip to Nebraska. If he were to flip, he'd be to Miami, to be honest with you. But Nebraska will not land Ryan Mira despite initially having a good connection with him. Then going on to the defense. Dane Bathurst was expected to visit Nebraska for the Iowa game. This is somebody who's been blown up in the Cedar season. Late bloomer. He just recently decommitted from Duke. I told you guys at the time, down to Nebraska and Oklahoma. And he did not visit Nebraska for the Iowa game. And as you can see on your screen, he ended up committing to Oklahoma. So the Huskers missed out on one of their only targets on the defensive side. Let's talk about the D-line, because we have 0 defensive line commits, which is completely egregious, completely unacceptable. Are we going to land anybody by sign day? Now, we know that Dylan Berryman pretty much down to LSU. Nebraska, there were some rumors going to visit Nebraska for the Iowa game. He didn't end up going to town, and it looks like he will, in fact, commit to LSU. I mean, there is like kind of like a wrench depending on the Lane Kiffin situation. Like, is Lane Kiffin going to take him? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe he doesn't go to LSU, but with him not visiting Nebraska, I just don't really see a world where you land him. The Huskers swung and they missed on a borderline 5-star nose tackle coming out of Louisiana. Again, Devon Lewis off the table, committed to Florida State. That's somebody who I thought was going to commit to Nebraska, honestly. I really did. And he's somebody who was a very late bloomer, great pass rusher, but he will not be a Nebraska Cornhusker. And really, that's it. That's it. I mean, Josiah Teasley's another wide receiver who we wanted, who's currently committed to Virginia. He's probably going to stick with them. He's a late bloomer prospect, very good, 6'5". We're not going after any other quarterbacks, running backs, offensive line, not really. Defensive line, I don't think we're going to land anybody. Linebackers, we missed out on Dane Bathurst. That's it, man. I mean, that's it. We can look at our offer list. We can look at some other guys who maybe we can get in last second. I mean, there's really nobody. Jacory Smith decommitted recently from Oklahoma. I don't think we're going to get him, even though we were involved in him originally. Same deal. The corners is pretty much over with. D-line, yeah, pretty much over with. David Chukwemeka never visited. He won't come here. He'll probably go to Alabama or someplace better. Yeah, really, really bad. So again, I'll say my full evaluation. We're not going to hold back on Wednesday, but it looks like Nebraska only will sign 9 players on sign day, the worst in the history of the program, not only from a quantity standpoint, but also from a quality. So that was kind of a bunch of doom and gloom. That was kind of bad news. Let's get to some good news real quick. Let's get to some good news, because there's a lot of good news, not in the 26 class, but in the class of 27. Let's look toward the future. It was just reported that Juju Johnson was set to announce his commitment on Monday. However, he has moved it back. He will likely now commit in January, maybe even February, but he's going to move it back to next year. So this is actually really good news for Nebraska, because I told you guys on the channel, if you were to commit, it would be to Oklahoma, because all the crystal balls indicated that on both 24/7 and on 3. But with him moving it back, it says, you know what, maybe Oklahoma's not a lock anymore. Nebraska can get involved here. So again, watch out for Juju Johnson. Am I saying Nebraska's going to land him now? Maybe not. I still think Oklahoma's ahead of us along with USC, but again, we need money. We need money to flow. We need money to flow for a type of guy like him. And we also need to say, you know what, be part of something special, pair alongside Torrey Pittman, a couple other dudes, and you can play right away at Nebraska. So that's good news. Arian to Washington, also good news, and we know he's visiting in early, or excuse me, he's committing in early January. He visited Nebraska for the Iowa game. He had a good visit, you know, despite us losing, really enjoyed the visit, enjoyed the facilities. That's the second time he's visited this year. He also was here for the USC game. So I told you guys, he's pretty much down to Nebraska and USC. With him coming back on another one, it tells you a lot. It tells you he's very interested. So again, I expect it to be us or the Trojans. Right now, I would say he's going to commit to the Trojans, but again, a lot can change. And with him coming that last week of the year, it says a lot. Then Brandon Lockley visited Nebraska for the Iowa game. He's a 4-star linebacker coming out of Pennsylvania. Just another guy to watch out for. He tweeted this out. Had a great game time visit Nebraska. Thanks for the first-class hospitality. And then he was also tweeted at by our current wide receiver commit, Tay Ellis. He said, come home despite the loss. Come where you can play early. So again, it's not like a great, I don't love the strategy telling people you can play early here. Like, that's not really a good look for Nebraska. If our only selling point is you can play early despite everything else, you're not going to win maybe, but you can play early. And that's not maybe the sign we want. That's not really the message we want to have to these guys. But I mean, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. And that's partly why Taylor is committed here. But Brandon Lockley, watch out for him. He had a really good visit despite losing to Iowa. And then the last guy I'll have an update around is Ahmad Hardy now with Lane Kiffin going to LSU. That hurts us significantly. Significantly hurts our odds of filling Ahmad Hardy, because we know one thing about Lane Kiffin. He's a winner. He's a great recruiter, and he's somebody all these recruits love. And Ahmad Hudson, he reacted to the Lane Kiffin news very well on social media. He said he wants the interim head coach at LSU to still stay there. We'll see if that happens, but yeah, right now, again, I told you guys, like, while Nebraska arguably is the favorite, it's going to be a long recruiting process, and we also know that he grew up to be an LSU fan. In his heart of hearts, he wants to go there. So the only way I thought Nebraska was going to land him is if Nebraska started winning all of a sudden, which is not really happening, or LSU kind of had a terrible hire that he didn't like. Well, I think he's going to like that Lane Kiffin hire. I think it's really hard not to like that Lane Kiffin hire. Okay, that's a top-tier head coach who's I wouldn't say great person, but he has a great personality. So again, it's going to be a long recruiting process. Am I saying Ahmad Hudson's going to commit tomorrow? No. But I'm saying that he's going to draw us out probably this summer. He's still probably going to visit Nebraska, LSU, Texas A&M. But I think when it's all said and done, my prediction will reign true. He'll commit to the LSU just because he always grew up to be a fan and he wants to be a Tiger in his blood. So other than that, man, I mean, the 27 class is still looking okay. I mean, you got to win, though. You got to win this bowl game. It's so big to win this bowl game. And you just got to start throwing around money. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Even though that we haven't really been too successful on the football field, it doesn't matter if you can throw around money. If you're aggressive with your NIL, particularly in this class, we're going to be just fine. Like, we already have a big-time running back in Amir Brown. We might still land Kaylon Haney. That's a really good duo right there. We're going after some big-time wide receivers, right? Big-time offensive linemen. Throw around money and see what happens, man. But the 27 class, again, depends on winning the bowl game and depends on how aggressive we are willing to be. All right, guys, let me know thoughts down below about everything. Hey, if you made it friends, do hit the like button and subscribe. Watch out for my sign day special on Wednesday, going over the entire recruiting class. As always, folks, go be good, go Met Rule, and I'll see you in the next one.